I'm just trying to adjust the brightness, because at one point it looks too bright. So I think that's probably a little bit better, because it looked like there was too much light on my face. But let me know what you think. You might not be listening now. It's too damn bright. What a predicament to have. I think we're there now. Good morning and welcome to your restorative practice. I was waiting for confirmation that I was live. Looked like I was live, but I just wanted to make sure. So, good morning and welcome. So, my name is Yvonne and I'm a restorative and hatha yoga teacher with More Yoga. And first of all, round of applause to you for making the time for your yoga practice today. It is a beautiful sunny day. I need to turn the volume down, I can hear myself. It's a beautiful sunny day out there, so it's great that you have made the time to practice, because you could have been out having a lovely walk, which I'm going to do afterwards, and hope you'll do the same. So, restorative yoga. If those of you have come to my class at Wembley, or I've covered somewhere and you've experienced my restorative, you know you're hopefully in for a nice relaxing treat. If you've not done restorative before, it's all about relaxation. It's about helping you move from how we walk around protecting ourselves from fight or flight mode into relaxation mode. So from sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic, where we allow the body just to be supported and relaxed. And it's really good for us. It's really good for us to take at least 10 minutes every day to literally just be still and relax. I know that sounds easier said than done right now, but you're already doing it because you're here for the next hour. So the poses that we're going to do today, literally only about 4, because in the restorative practice we hold the postures for longer to allow the body to relax, because it takes about 15 minutes to move from fight or flight into relaxation. So therefore, to benefit from the relaxation of the pose, you need to be in it longer so you can take time to adjust. So before we get into the poses, you need props, and I hope that you saw on the description for the class that you needed a few things, which I'm going to walk you through now. But firstly, you need to see me, so my room is really bright, but ideally also to help your nervous system relax, drop the blinds, because light affects the nervous system. So bright lights are not great for restorative. So I appreciate it's sunny, but because you're going to be relaxing, we want you to drop into that. Just drop your blinds or your curtains or whatever, so you're taking out the excess light. It's hopefully not cold in your room, so it should be a nice ambient temperature, because as you're still in the postures for about 10 minutes, you will notice the cold. Keep your socks on, because once your hands and feet are warm, it again allows the body to relax. Hope you've put a sign on the door so you're not going to be disturbed, because you're relaxing and you don't want someone to come and burst in on you. So hopefully you've put a sign on the door. If you've told your family or housemates that you're in practice, or if you're on your own, great, enjoy that. But wherever you are, just make sure you're not going to be disturbed. So I think that's all the housekeeping. And then the last thing, nice important thing, if you have managed to access it, on the description for the class there should be a link to Spotify, and it's got the recommended track that I suggest you listen to for the practice. It's a tambura, so it's an Indian string instrument, and it's literally just a couple of notes being played, but it's really great for deep relaxation and meditation. But for this purpose, it's great for the relaxation. So if you can access the description of the class, just click on the Spotify and have that a decent volume, not too loud, not too low, in the background, and that will also help you to relax. So that's all the housekeeping done. So props, you will need 2 bricks, or 2 books is the equivalent. There's a great blog on the website, best household substitutes for yoga props. So have a look at it, but you just can have 2 Harry Potter books, 2 hardback books of that size if you don't have the yoga props. You'll need a strap or a scarf or a belt from your dressing gown. You'll need an eye bag, which you can use a sock filled with rice, and you can put some essential oils in there. And then you'll need 2 blankets or 2 towels. And then the most important prop for restorative yoga, I'm sitting on it, is the bolster. So you need to create something that looks like this if you don't have a bolster. If you've got a birthday or anything coming up, ask for a bolster as a present, but you can make one. So you could use 2 pillows rolled up inside of a pillowcase, roll it inside of a blanket, then put it in a pillowcase. Or if you've got an old sleeping bag, you can put a blanket inside of a sleeping bag, roll the sleeping bag up and then tie it. But basically improvise and come up with something that's firm, not too hard, but definitely not soft. It needs to support you, so it needs to be more on the firmer side. Okay, so I'm forgetting which pose I'm doing first. This one first. So hopefully you've grabbed all your props. So to start off with, we're starting in a supported Shavasana. And for a supported Shavasana, you will need your bolster towards the end of the mat. Sorry, middle of the mat. Just one of your blankets for now. You can cover with the second one if you like. You will need the belt. I'll show you what to do with that in a minute. Always have your eye bag near the top of your mat so you can reach for it. As soon as you're settled in a pose, don't wait for me to say put it on. You pop it on. Your 2 bricks you're going to put at the end of the mat because they're going to be for your heels. So put your books low side down, end of your mat, and bolster is going to go behind your knees. So come to sitting, and you'll need to judge the distance between your heels and your bolster. So have your heels up on the blocks. It's just another layer of comfort to elevate the legs so your lower back drops into the mat fully. Backs of the knees help the back really release. The belt. So if you've got a yoga belt, you'll know how to strap that up under and over your buckle. If you have a belt, you're just going to tie it, and you're going to step your legs through the belt, and then you're going to bring it mid-thigh. So halfway between knee and hip, mid-thigh. So definitely not near the knees or near the hips, halfway between the two. And the buckle or the knot of your belt should be in the gap of your thigh, not on your thigh, because it might pinch you as we lay down. So once you've, and the belt should be not tight, just firm to hold the thighs. We put that on because as you relax, your thighs will roll out, and if there's nothing there to support them, it interferes with your relaxation. So once you've put your belt on and you're happy it's firm, not too tight, place your hands by your hips, roll your shoulders down your back, lengthen your tailbone down. We're going to do that again when we lay down, and ensure that the blanket, I should have said, the blanket should be the smooth edge towards your neck. So smooth folded edge, not the hem edge. Have the hem edge away from you, top of the mat, and head and neck only on the blanket. So laying down, have head and neck only on the blanket, and just take a moment to arrive. Just lay still for a moment. Now, if you're wearing glasses, always take them off. Once I've guided you into the pose, always take your glasses off, because it's another layer of relaxation. So from here, you're going to lengthen the tailbone down once again, and to help do that, you're going to place your hands into the waist of your waist and smooth the skin of your buttocks down. So you're just literally lifting your buttocks away from the mat. Just creates a bit of space in the back. Then you can lengthen tailbone down. Just gives you more space in the back waist. And then we need to allow our upper body to connect with the mat in the same way. So to do that, it's a small movement. We're going to inhale, arms up towards the ceiling. Turn the palms away from you so they're facing your forehead. So your thumbs are facing the sides of the room. Now you're going to bend at the elbow, so now your elbows are facing the ceiling. Your fingertips are into the top of the mat, so like TP fingers into the blanket, either side of your ears. Keeping the elbows pointing up, keeping your lower body on the mat. Small movement, inhale, lift the chest and move the shoulder blades down the back. So it's a really small movement, I'll show you again. TP fingers by your ears, lift the chest, move the shoulder blades down the back. It's a really small movement. And then you release your arms into Shavasana arms, because we are in a supported Shavasana. And the supported Shavasana can be used for the start of practice as well as the end of practice. The last adjustment is to lengthen your chin down towards your chest so you can feel a small stretch at the back of your neck. And from there, you just start to arrive. You start to arrive in the practice. You start to connect to your breath. And the breath pattern that I recommend you follow today is imagining that your breath, your inhale, is going up towards your clavicle, your collarbone, and that your exhale is going down just below your navel. So in fact, for a moment, just bring your palms to those two places. So bring your palm, one palm to your clavicle, to your collarbone, other hand to just below your navel, in between your navel and pubic area, lower abdomen. Just place a hand there. And those are your 2 breath points today. So inhaling up towards the collarbone and down just below the navel. And that's going to be your focus, inhaling and exhaling between the 2. And now that you've got those points, so just have 2 rounds of breath with the hands still on collarbone and just below navel. And then once you've done 2 rounds of breath, you can release the hands back into Shavasana arms and just have a few moments here arriving in the practice. So those of you that have done restorative before, you'll know that there's not a lot of chat from the teacher. And there shouldn't be, because you're here to relax, and if I keep talking, that really will interfere with your relaxation. So yes, there can be a challenge sometimes with the quiet of restorative, because things may well come up, but it's about just being content with that and not getting into the dialogue of it. So thoughts will come, of course they will, but the trick is to pause, note the thought, but not engage in the dialogue of he said, she said, what I need to do, what I need to buy, how long the queue's going to be at Sainsbury's or Waitrose when I get there. Just note the thought, but connect back to the breath, clavicle, just below the navel. Or if you've got the tambura sound on, you tune into that tambura sound, and it's so very grounding that hopefully it takes you back to your practice and away from the dialogue of your thoughts. So you'll be here for a few minutes, because each pose we do stay a few minutes in it to relax. And just to help you arrive in your first pose, the supported Shavasana, I'm going to read you a poem. Some of you may have heard it before, but I just think it's so fitting, especially for, you know, the time we're living in now. And it's just to remind us that we all need to rest. So once again, bravo for being here. So just connect to your breath whilst I share rest with you. Rest is the conversation between what we love to do and how we love to be. To rest is to give up on the already exhausted will as the prime motivator of endeavour, with its endless outward need to reward itself to establish goals. To rest is to give up on worrying and fretting, and at the sense there is something wrong with the world, unless we are there to put it right. To rest is to fall back literally or figuratively from outer targets, and shift to an inner state of natural exchange. The template of natural exchange is the breath, the automatic giving and receiving that forms the basis and measure for life itself. We are rested when we are living that exchange. In rest is the sense of stopping, of giving up on what we've been doing or how we have been being. It is the sense of slowly coming home. Deep in the primal exchange of the breath is the give and take, the blessing and the being blessed, and the ability to delight in both. In rest there is a sense of presence, a delight in and anticipation of the world and all its forms in which receiving and responding occur in one spontaneous movement. A deep experience of rest is a perspective from which we are able to perceive the outer specific forms of our work and life and our relationships while being nourished by the shared foundational breath of the gift of life itself. Rested, we are ready for the world, but not held hostage by it. David White. Have a few more rounds of inhaling to the clavicle, exhaling just below the navel, and scan the body to see how you're feeling, how you are responding to this first pose. And I invite you to check in with your breath now, the pace of it, the texture. Do you notice if it's raspy? You know, you've been probably rushing around finding props before organising the house. But and then I invite you, when we arrive in the last Shavasana at the end of class, to check in with your breath, and hopefully you'll notice that it's slower, calmer and fuller. So very gently start to deepen the breath, and inhale, raise your arms overhead holding on to opposite elbows, and if opposite elbows feels too much, you release the grip of the elbows and hold on to opposite forearms and reach the arms overhead so the forearms are actually resting back into your blanket. Keep the shoulders from the ears and just breathe up into the side body. So you're keeping that breath pattern, inhaling to the heart, inhaling to the collarbone and down to just below the navel. And then gently change the cross of the arm, so you've got the other forearm in front, and just notice as you change side which side feels more open, which side feels more comfortable. And have a few breaths there on the second side. And then from there, gently lay the hands back on the front body. So swap the hands over for reverse of what you did the first time, and place one hand on the collarbone, one hand just below the navel. And just have a couple of rounds of breath there just before we move on to the second pose. Lovely. So from there, draw your knees into your chest, remove your belt and give yourself a really nice hug. So rock from side to side, really feeling the back body pressing into the mat, and just really slowly and mindfully slow it down as if you're in a big vat of molasses. And then very carefully roll to your right hand side and looking at the ground as you come up, so your head comes up last. Use your left hand to push yourself to come up to upright. Now I appreciate you might not be able to come to the right, you come to whichever side works for you. Okay, I forgot to tell you to put your eye bag on, but as I say, always put it on once you're settled into the pose, because I forget to tell you to put them on Anyway, so next pose. So for this one, you're going to need just your blanket and the bolster. So take the blanket you had for your head, unfold it from the square or rectangle, and then from about this shape, fold it long ways and make a roll. So nice neat roll. And with the restorative work, and I should have said when you folded your blanket, always ensure that there's no creases, it's smooth, because it does affect your practice, it affects your comfort. So part of the practice is always, part of the relaxation is how we arrive at class, how we come to the mat. And if we come to the mat making time for ourselves, which we have, that extends to taking time making the props as neat as they should be, because it affects your comfort. So we're going to move into a sideline twist, which is both energizing and relaxing, and it releases tension in the waist and the back body. So have your bolster vertical towards the top of the mat, and then your rolled blanket is going to go in between your legs. So you're going to come to sitting on your right, ideally. Well, let's try and start on the right. And you're going to sit with the top of your right thigh right up against the bolster. Have your knees facing forward and place the blanket in between your legs. And that's just to stop any groin grip as we turn face down towards the bolster. So some of you have probably done this with me before, or a version in other restorative classes, but slight difference with this one today. It's a slightly more active twist, because we're going to extend the right leg long. So extend it as straight as feels comfortable for you. So still keeping the top of the right thigh right up against the bolster. Extend that right leg out. Dorsiflex the foot so the toes are facing up towards the knee. Extend through the heel. And then draw that left knee closer towards the right so you're able to turn towards the bolster. So keeping close to the bolster, spread your palms so you have one hand either side of the bolster. And those of you with a yoga practice, you'll know what I mean when I say it's downward dog arms. Otherwise, yeah, one hand either side of the bolster. And just take a moment here before we start to lay down. I've been working with this after doing a class with one of my teachers, and if you actually pause here for like 5 breaths, so that movement we were just doing, inhaling to the clavicle, exhaling down towards the navel, have 5 breaths here. So just pause, just stare away from you, checking in with that breath pattern, 5 rounds before we lay down, because as we pause here, not only are we connecting to our breath, which is great, we're actually allowing the organs to start to twist around. So the abdomen's starting to turn, all the organs are actually gently, slowly turning. So when we go to lay down, we've got more of our front body ready to be supported by the bolster. I could actually tell the difference. So normally I turn and we go straight in. But one more breath, one more round where you know where you are in your 5. And then once you've done the 5, you then lift the chest, inhaling. And then on the exhale, you start to lay belly, ribs, chest down on the bolster. Ground the forearms. So have the forearms as wide as the mat. And then come to laying on the bolster and lay on your right ear. So your head is facing your knee. Keep extending through the right leg. Draw your left knee closer to the right leg once again, and as you do that, draw your right hip away from the bolster, because that creates space in your back to allow you to have space in the waist, so you can have more length to turn to really be supported by the bolster. And I can feel the difference actually, more supported after waiting a few more breaths. And then have the arms as wide as the mat. Draw the elbows back towards your shoulders. So ideally your elbows under your shoulder. And just surrender. And take your glasses off if you put them back on to look at the pose.
and just relax. So the blanket stops your groin from gripping, and you're getting a nice opening to the top of the right thigh, as well as a nice twist to the abdomen. So this is a downward facing revolved abdominal twist. Sanskrit name is Adho Mukha Jatara Paravatasana, and it's really quite relaxing, which the poses are in restorative. And again, if anything doesn't feel quite right, you just need to breathe into it and just gently move so you can feel what slight adjustment you might need to make. And if your forearm doesn't touch the mat, and sometimes that happens, one side is completely down, the other side not, you will then use your second blanket to raise the earth to you. So never dangle, never be hanging. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, do pop it into the live chat and I can answer you, but just stay and relax. So we'll have a few minutes on this side, and then of course we will need to change sides. So keep connecting to the breath, tuning into the tambura, and just enjoying your relaxation. So I'll just tell you a little bit about who made restorative popular in the West. And there's a lady called Judith Lasseter. She's an American teacher, and she last 30 years kind of picked up on the work that Mr. Iyengar had started by creating the props. He created the props, which we know from Iyengar Yoga, and had devised a slower practice for people who were unwell, hence Restore to Health, Restorative Yoga. And then Judith Lasseter discovered that if people stayed longer in the poses, it did contribute to, a calmer nervous system, contributes to decreased stress levels and general sense of well-being. And thankfully, because society has realized how important well-being is, restorative yoga has become more and more popular. And I think right now, during this crisis, it's becoming even more popular, and rightly so, to help us all navigate. So keep inhaling and exhaling as you enjoy the second side of the practice. Keeping the breathpan, inhaling to the clavicle and exhaling towards the navel, and being content with the silence, or if you've got the tambura on, tune into the tambura. A few more minutes on this side, then we'll change sides. check in with your breath. Check in where you're feeling the breath move along the side of the body. Slowly start to deepen your breathing, and very gently start to walk your palms under your shoulders, starting to push yourself to upright and drawing that right leg in behind you. And just pause, sitting upright for a moment, check in with how you're feeling. My style is always quite slow and grounded, so you can check how you're feeling in between both sides. So of course we'll now do the left hand side. So come to, same as before, come to sitting with your left hip now against the, left thigh. Top of the left thigh right up against the bolster. So we're doing the second side. So top of left thigh against the bolster. Have your knees facing forward, and again we're going to extend the leg. Now if extending the leg feels like too much, you can just bring the foot behind you and hook it behind your right calf. But if it feels okay, keep the leg extended. We'll start with it extended for a few breaths and then bring it in if need be. Draw the right knee in closer to the left, have your blanket back in between the legs to stop the groin grip, and as before, turning the palms either side of the bolster, lifting the chest, and just having the 5 breaths here as we did before. And it might feel different on this side, so just notice left to right which side feels more open. Now my left side is just tighter all round, so I know this side will feel a little bit stiffer for me. But I'm going to take the 5 breaths, inhaling to the clavicle, exhaling to just below the navel. 5 rounds before we lay our body down onto the bolster. Just allows the organs to turn into the twist. So this is the revolved abdominal twist, second side. Adho Mukha Chitta Paravatasana is the Sanskrit name. 1 more round of breath, inhaling to the clavicle and exhaling to the crown, and then start to fold forward, walking the arms forward, arms as wide as the mat, so forearms as wide as the mat, so it gives you space in your shoulders, and then lay on your left ear and keep extending through the left heel, toes facing up towards your knee. Draw the right knee in towards the left, and as you do that, draw the left hip away from the bolster, creating space in the back of the waist on the left, on the lower side of the back. So just allows you to turn a little bit more and feel more comfortable in the pose. And then draw the head back a little bit, but make sure the chin doesn't stick right up. Have the chin always facing down towards the chest. Have the elbows under the shoulders. Spread the palms. Take your glasses off if you put them back on. I'll keep mine on because I'm doing stuff. And just surrender. And just notice how does it feel on this side. Keep the shoulders broad, away from the ears. And just surrender into the second side of the downward facing revolved abdominal twist. So as you lay in the twist, when you come out, I think it's called perfusion, it allows fresh blood into your system, into the rib area, because the twist kind of allows that to happen. So it's really good for us, as well as being quite calming and releasing tension. So have a few minutes here on this side, keeping that breath pattern, and just gently noticing which side feels more open. And if you do feel any knobbly, grainy bits that feel uncomfortable, send some breath to it. So visualize the breath going to that particular area, and hopefully that will free it and allow you to really just surrender into the pose. Inhaling and exhaling between the clavicle and just below the navel as you move further into your restorative practice. Trying to keep as connected to the practice as possible, concentrating on the breath, the tambura, and noticing any sounds that are going on outside of your room, but not distracted by them enough to engage with the dialogue of what's going on outside the room. Keeping present in your practice. A few more minutes on this side, and then we'll move on to the penultimate pose. Checking in with the breath. Last minute or excuse me, last minute or so here. So if you haven't already, start to deepen the breathing and draw that left leg in, and deepen the breathing some more. Start to walk your palms under your shoulders, starting to push yourself to upright, and then slowly come to upright and just pause. You can remove the blanket from between your legs and just pause for a moment, connecting to your breath and reflecting on how you're feeling, and just noticing which side felt more open, and hopefully feeling a little bit more space around the middle. So we're now going to move into a forward fold, and because we've had a nice twist, so we try to, with the restorative work, move from symmetrical to asymmetrical. So started in a symmetrical with the Shavasana, now the twist asymmetrical, and now the forward fold is symmetrical again, and then we will finish in symmetrical with another version of Shavasana. So you'll need your 2 books or your bricks, the bolster, which you will need, and your blanket. So come to sitting with your legs as wide as feels possible. So it doesn't matter if they come off the mat, so sitting up nice and tall. And I'd recommend, for a layer of comfort, that you open your blanket, and the long fold that we had to roll, you just make that flat and put it behind your knees, because it's just really nice that you can have your backs of the knees pressing into some warmth and also a nice layer of comfort. And then extend the heels away from you. So we're moving into a pose called Upavista Konasana, but it's now a supported version. So with the restorative work, it becomes restorative as soon as it's supported. So as soon as you've got something to hold the body, and in this case it will be the bolsters, because you are coming forward to rest the forehead on the bolster. And we'll need to prop the bolster up onto the bricks. Now if you're flexible enough, you'll know that you could probably just use the bricks on their own, but you'll know that from your own practice. Otherwise, come with me and I'll show you how we'll set up with the blocks. So you'll have one block or your book flat, and then the other one at an angle, at the taller height, angled on top of it. So you've got like a little perch. And then if you have got a bolster with a handle, make sure the handle's away from you, and then perch the bolster on top of the bricks, and you'll need to gauge how close you need it to you or away from you. So have a play with it, and because it depends how tight your hips are, but have a play and get it to perch as much as you can. And then you lengthen the tailbone down in towards the mat, roll your shoulders down the back, extend through the heels so the feet, toes are facing up towards you. Really engage the backs of your knees so they're pressing into the blanket. Hands by the hips, lift the chest, and then start to fold forward as far as feels comfortable to you, and rest your forehead onto your prop. And then you can bring your hands just in front of you on the mat and just surrender. So try and keep the neck long, try not to have it crunched up, shoulders away from the ear, chest long, forehead into the prop, and just adjust it to where it feels right. You can, if it feels comfortable, have your hands around, but you'll hang after a while, so I find it better just to ground my hands into the mat. And just inhaling and exhaling, having a few calming breaths here. And you'll feel lots of opening in the back body. So start to breathe into the back body, into the lungs. And just as I say, just the height wherever feels right for you. Now, if you might need to build it up, you can do whatever feels right. You build it up to whatever height feels appropriate for you, bringing it closer. But if that doesn't feel right, you can remove that. And as I say, if it's in your practice to be able to come forward just onto the bricks on their own, I probably need one more. But if that starts to feel too tight in the hips for you, you need to build it up. So have a play with it, but the idea is we're coming forward into a forward fold, getting a gentle opening into the hips, but because you're supported, starts to slow the breath down and still keeps the restorative feel of the practice. So have a few minutes here, and then you'll have a nice long juicy Shavasana where I'll make sure you're nice and comfy. So have a few minutes here in the forward fold, Upavista Konasana. Inhaling to the clavicle and exhaling down towards the navel. Slight bend of the knees if it does feel too much, but hopefully if you've put your blanket behind your knees, that should have a nice calming comfort effect on the backs of the knees. Keep connected to the breath, inhaling and exhaling as you go. Check in with how you're feeling as we're coming towards the end of the practice. What adjustments do you need to make to really fall into this last section of relaxation? Inhaling to the clavicle and exhaling down towards just below the navel. Feeling the breath moving into the back of the body, having space in the lungs to breathe. Slowly start to deepen your breathing, and slowly, if you hold on to the outsides of your knees, slightly bend them and draw them together, and just pause sitting upright for a moment. We didn't hold that one as long because I want you to have a juicy restorative, a juicy shavasana. It's all been restorative. So coming up to your final pose now, the second shavasana, final pose, relaxation. So turn your bolster horizontal, so it's going back behind the knees how we started. but we're not going to have the heels up, we're going to just have the heels grounded into the mat. So your blanket, have a blanket behind the head, but a difference this time is have it with a bit of a lip, so make it like a little envelope. So have a fold just before, so don't put it edge to edge, have it a little bit before the edge, because that's going to be snuggled up around your neck. And try to have it just under your shoulders as well, the lip part. So come to sitting and then have the bolster directly behind the knees. Extend the legs long and sort of lift one leg, turn it towards the right and let it fall, lift it, and that's just to start to create space and turning our thighs inwards so we've got space in that lower back once again. Have your bricks or your books lowest height just near you, arm's distance away. So we're going to have our wrist crease, the crease of our wrist on the edge of the book. So have the, if you're using a book, have the book end towards you, not the page end, so it's smooth, and you're going to line up the edge of the book with your wrist crease because it just allows space in your forearm and opens the shoulder, so it just allows you to relax. So turn the books to the right side, grab your belt, hopefully it's still looped from before, step your feet back through it, bring it to mid thigh, have your second blanket. Sorry, when we get back to studio I'll come around and cover you up, but for now you'll need to self-serve, cover your feet, bring it over your knees, and then you can start to lay back. So hands by the hips, roll the shoulders back, lay back, take your glasses off, and before we do the snuggling of the blanket around the head, let's just do the line up the wrist crease on the bricks, and then you can put your hands under and then reach back. It'll make sense in a minute. So grab your books and have your arms outstretched as normal, and then find where your wrist crease is, so your little finger side is into the brick. So you're actually laying with your palms almost facing towards your body. So instead of having your palms facing up, the palms are facing the side of your body, so you're laying on the wrist crease, the little finger side of your palm, and the line of your wrist crease is lined up with the edge of the book. Okay, so now you've got that ready, because it's the last move. You now reach your hands up to your blanket, and the first folded edge, you start to gather the blanket and push it under the crease of your neck. So you start to push the blanket into the crease of your neck, so that starts to feel really quite snug, and then literally you start to take the first layer of blanket and shape it around your head. So you're pushing in the edge of the blanket around your head, so you're snuggling yourself and like make a little cocoon with the blanket, so it should feel quite nice. And then you snuggle in the second layer, so literally there's no blanket left, it's just your mat. And then the little bit that's by your shoulders, snuggle that in as well, so you should feel quite cocooned. And then reach for your blanket, cover yourself up, and then reach your arms out to the brick. So you're putting your wrist crease at the side of the book or the block, laying on your little finger side, so your palms are facing your body, and you should feel completely snuggled and surrendering and relaxed. Last adjustment is lengthen your chin to your chest. And now just connect to your natural breathing pattern, and just have a few minutes here in your final relaxation shavasana. Inhale through the nose and audibly exhale through the mouth. And again, inhale through the nose.
last one. And surrender to your final pose, Shavasana. Release the jaw, release your forehead, and just settle into your final pose.
You're very welcome to stay in Shavasana for longer should you wish to. If so, do enjoy. But if you're finishing the practice with me, start to deepen the breathing. Start to wiggle the fingers and toes, bringing life back into the body. And then inhale, reach the arms overhead, full body stretch, reach right through the fingertips, right through to the toes. And then draw your knees into the chest, slip your belt off, and then have a gentle rock from side to side once again, as if you're in a big vat of molasses. Rock really slowly, mindfully, and then gently, carefully watching out for any props, roll over to your right hand side and stay on your right hand side for a couple of breaths. Extend your right arm under your right ear and just have a couple of breaths there. And using your left arm as a lever, push yourself to upright, looking at the ground as you come up, so your head comes up last. And then come to join me in easy pose, Sukhasana. Sit cross-legged up on your bolster, blanket or a block. Sit nice and tall, keep the spine long. Sit with the palms facing up or down, whatever suits you. And just close your eyes. And hopefully you checked in with how your breath was in the Shavasana. If not, do a check-in now, compare it to when you arrived. And as you just do that last check-in, I'm going to share with you one reading from the Radiant Sutras, which is a book containing the conversation between Shiva and Shakti as Shakti tries to understand what yoga is. The real sacrifice is to let your sins be destroyed by the vast power of the universe. It is to live in radiant bliss. Senses dissolve, mind dissolves, the objects of sense dissolve, even the void is dissolved. This is transcendence. Inhaling, bringing palms to heart center. Exhaling, bowing your head to your hands in gratitude for making time for your yoga practice today and being able to access yoga during this time. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. Release the palms, open the eyes, raise the gaze. Namaste. Thank you so much for taking the time to practice with me today. I'm going to be around for a few minutes after class, so if you've got any questions or comments, feedback, anything, please do drop it into the live chat box and I'll respond, because I'll stay live for another 5 minutes. So please feel free to make any comments in the box. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, my handle is Yvonne Henrietta Yoga. So that's Yvonne Henrietta Yoga. Have a great Saturday.